All right, welcome back. It is time for Financial Focus. Our financial analyst Steve Buden joins us now to talk about a bunch of things, including the jobs report, which is really good and just released.
Yeah, and you see the numbers behind me. The markets are reacting pretty nicely. The jobs report last Friday, all good. We call this a Goldilocks scenario where it's not too hot, not too cold, it's just right.
Wow.
Because if it's too hot, the Federal Reserve might intervene, raise interest rates. If it's too cold, it's never good, right? So this is a great report. Unemployment across all demographics, women, minorities, teenagers, is all dropping, which is great. One of the things that I always look at is what's called the workforce participation rate. It's the number of people in this country working. That continues to go up. So they can manipulate the unemployment numbers because the way they define being unemployed is a little different. But the number of people working continues to go up, which is really, really good.
Now, I always find it interesting, this next topic, states competing for workers. Yeah. And it's always, I don't know, some places that maybe, I don't want to say not everyone wants to go and live. You're not thinking like, I'm not going to, because I remember we talked about the Dakotas doing this. But there are some states that are trying to lure people to work there.
And of course, we don't want to have our viewers move to other states, but it's certainly interesting to see that there are states in the Northeast that are offering people up to $10,000 to relocate there and work from those states. Now, like you said, there's other things that go into this. It's not just a job, it's the climate and everything else. But there's such a shortage of skilled workers. Midwestern states, I'm not going to name them, are offering people $5,000 to move because they're building factories and they just cannot find people that are going to either build them or work in them when they're finished.
And you were talking about Vermont was offering something too. It's just something that you think, well, I'm not going to go. Not that I'm saying I'm not going to, but it's just not like, hey, unless you really specifically want to move there. But sometimes you need a little extra incentive. I think I think that this would probably work. Does it work usually?
Yeah. Not as much as they think, because again, more goes into it. I mean, I have clients locally that own restaurants and other small businesses that are begging me to recommend people to them to hire. They just cannot find qualified employees.
Right, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this Supreme Court nominee announcement. How is this going to affect the markets? How's it going to affect us? Because you think, oh, it's an announcement and it only has to do with it, but there's a lot of different things. Right,
most people think the Supreme Court really just deals with those controversial social issues, whether it's prayer in schools or abortion or things like that. But there's a lot of financial aspects that make it to the Supreme Court as well. Things like how much can the environmental agencies regulate the environment? How many political contributions can unions make? What can the stock market do? What's a fair wage to pay people with unemployment? Those are issues that sometimes rise to the Supreme Court. So when the president makes his announcement this morning, whoever that might be, there's always a big financial angle to it as well.
And when will we see that, tomorrow? Or because he's supposed to make an announcement a little bit later today. So will we see, it's affecting the markets like right away?
Yeah, the markets will be affected instantly, and I'm sure there's interest groups on both sides of the aisle that have the ads ready to go. I'm reading before I came up here that there's $1 million expenditures on both the Democratic side and the Republican side to support or fight the nominee. But just always remember that these appointments are lifetime appointments. So if there's somebody who's 50 years old, you see some of these folks on the screen, you're looking at a 30-year tenure on the Supreme Court. That's much longer than a president or most Congress people will last. So the Supreme Court really does have a far-reaching impact.
All right, Steve Buden with Financial Focus from the